This is the Bears Barroom Radio Network. Draft on Tap is rated PG. Parental discretion is advised.
With the 8th pick in the 2018 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select Roquan Smith, linebacker, Georgia.
Well, he might have been the best player in the college football playoff, even though Georgia didn't win the national championship. From the hometown of Montezuma, Georgia, he now goes to join the legends of the monsters of the Midway like Butkus, Singletary, Wilber Marshall, Urlacher, etc.
And here comes Mack again, but Kaiser gets away from him, but not from Smith. How's that for the opening play of your career? As Goff fires over the middle and it's intercepted at the 26-yard line. Roquan Smith, the rookie from Georgia, bounced out of bounds inside the 5.
In the 2018 draft, the Chicago Bears select James Daniels, center, Iowa.
Keep in mind, he's a youngster. He won't turn 21 until September 13th, and there are plenty of good things to like in James Daniels' game.
2018 second-round pick James Daniels had an excellent rookie campaign, starting 10 games at left guard. With talk now of possibly moving Daniels to center, his more natural position, the sky is the limit for the 21-year-old.
With the 51st pick of the 2018 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select Anthony Miller, receiver, Memphis.
And how about this? Anthony Miller, there's the reaction in Memphis, Tennessee. He is going to be the latest weapon for Mitchell Trubisky.
Trubisky, play action to the end zone. Touchdown, Bears! Anthony Miller. On second down, Trubisky well protected, wide open. Anthony Miller slips a tackle. Miller to the end zone. Touchdown, Bears!
Drink up, barflies. This is the first of 10 planned shows called Draft on Tap, focusing on the Chicago Bears and their draft needs and doing some scouting, talking to some scouts, some writers, and some football players, too, who are entering the draft. It's going to be a jam-packed 10-part series. My name is Aldo Gandia. I am the barkeeper here. Danny Shimon, our chief scouting analyst at the bar room, is with me. Shane Marsaw, unfortunately, cannot join us for this debut episode. He had a family emergency, and Shane, please know that our thoughts are with you. Our guests tonight are Eric Edholm, longtime NFL writer, and Northern Iowa linebacker Rickey Neal will join us. He's been invited to the Chicago Bears local day tryout, so that's going to be interesting. We talked to him in a pre-recorded interview that Bearlissimo joined us for. Right now, I want to introduce to you Danny Shimon, our chief scout at Bears Barroom. Danny, how are you?
Aldo, my friend, how you doing tonight? Man, I'm getting pumped here. Less than a month away from this NFL draft. This is my time of year.
I was going to say, this is the time of year where you probably don't get any sunlight whatsoever because you're just watching tape all night long.
I'm as pale as a ghost. But before we get started, I just want to, also say prayers and best wishes to our partner here on Draft on Tap, Shane Marsaw, dealing with some stuff at home, and of course that's more important. And we just hope that everything's okay, and that we'll have him on here next week.
I spoke to him a little while ago, and he said that this hurts so much that he can't talk to draft because he's like you. He's a kid in a candy store when it comes around draft time. He loves to talk about it, and he's got a lot to share, but I'm pretty sure he will be back for episode 2 of our Draft on Tap series. And again, what we're going to do over the next several episodes here is Danny's going to provide scouting reports. Shane will as well. We'll talk about the needs of the team because things can change all of a sudden. We know how how things change. It could be trades. The Bears could be moving up and moving down. Who knows what's going to happen? We'll be interviewing people like Greg Gabriel. He'll be on in a future show, Emery Hunt, and so forth. So we've got a lot of great guests lined up, and we've also got some excellent pro prospects lined up, too. I'm not going to give you any names right now. But,
don't tease it right now. Don't tease it.
I won't.
If the fans want, if you guys want to hear about the draft, you want to get prepared, for guys that the Bears could be looking at, the guys the Bears could be drafting, we'll keep you, informed. We'll, like Aldo said, we'll have, writers, we'll have scouts, we'll have, people coming on, and we'll talking about these guys. So when the Bears make their picks, hopefully you'll be prepared. You won't be saying, who's that? From
right,
what state?
Exactly.
You'll know who these guys are.
Unless they surprise us again with the Joel Iyiegbuniwe. That was a shocker. I had not done any homework on him whatsoever.
I still call him Iggy because I still don't want to butcher his last name.
It's the only complicated name that I can mention without tripping over myself. And it's because I rehearsed it so often. I do want to give a special shout out to. Let me pull up my list here. The team involved in producing this podcast. It's Bearlissimo. He's a part-time analyst and segment producer. Joe Mandel is going to be a segment producer, and he might fill in case I have an emergency. He'll fill in as host. Bobby Bombs and Ryan Badgley are our other segment producers. So we've got a team of people putting this together for your listening pleasure. All right, let's start by talking about the 2018 draft class. Danny, I know that you were high on it. Now that these guys have played a full season or have shown glimpses, guys like Javon Wims, of what they're capable of doing, give me a kind of a grade, an overall grade for what you think this Ryan Pace is, his fourth draft with the Chicago Bears.
Right. After the draft last year, as you just mentioned, I was very high on Pace's draft, on his 2018 draft, and I think I might have given him an A or A minus. I mean, today, after a full season, seeing these guys play, again, not all of them have reached their peak. They're just all going to get better. I mean, I give him an A plus. I mean, this could be a foundation building draft. This 2018 draft is a foundation building draft for Ryan Pace and the Bears, because I mean, if you talk about right away, Roquan Smith, had a great season and only going to get better. James Daniels, started 10 games at left guard. Now he might be moved to a more natural position for him at center. It's only going to get better. Anthony Miller, his numbers weren't as high as I thought they were going to be, but his touchdown production was 7 touchdowns. And we can go on the list. Bilal Nichols, Javon Wims showed glimpses of what he can do. Why I was excited and I was pounding the table last year for the Bears to get this kid, both him and Miller. And then Cali Fitz still developing as an edge rusher. So this could be a foundation laying draft for Ryan Pace and the Bears. And this we can see players develop and grow from this draft and become some already are pretty well known, like Roquan Smith, and some could become Pro Bowlers and eventual stars in the NFL.
I like the way you put that, a foundational draft, because I feel the same way. For me, it's reminiscent of what I think is the 83 draft for the Chicago Bears when they picked up guys like Richard Dent in the 8th round, I believe it was. The draft was a dozen rounds back then, and they picked up a lot of key players. I believe Jimbo Covert was in that draft. That was a draft that yielded a lot of excellent football players that were the foundation. Outside of the key players that they already had on a team like Walter Payton, there was the foundation for the 85 Super Bowl. And so this 2018 draft sure does smell like a very, very special draft. And when you look at guys like Roquan Smith, who could be a transcendent type linebacker, and what I mean by that, we know what Brian Urlacher did for the Chicago Bears. He basically was a linebacker and a middle safety, the way he patrolled that area. Well, Roquan now is this sideline to sideline. Urlacher was too, but Roquan is even a better fit now for these 21st century offenses than any linebacker perhaps out there in the NFL because of his speed, because of his explosiveness, and so forth. This guy could be a truly special linebacker, huh?
Exactly. And you talk about Brian Urlacher, and remember, like you said, Urlacher was playing safety in college. Mm-hmm. So when they brought him in, remember, at strong side linebacker, and he was lost, and instinctively he wasn't familiar with, being around the line of scrimmage that much. And then they finally moved him over to middle linebacker, and that's where, they allowed him to, in that cover 2 defense, drop back and be like you said, middle safety to roam in the middle of the field, kind of give him, put him in a spot where he's more familiar, he was more comfortable, and then he took off. But Roquan Smith comes in already as a linebacker, a true linebacker, an instinctive linebacker. A kid, as you saw last year, coming in from the holdout, got a late start to training camp, and then eventually, once he got put into that lineup, and became a full-time starter, you just saw the speed, the athleticism, the difference he made in the middle of that field, teamed with Danny Trevathan, the way they were able to cover sideline to sideline, anything thrown in front of them, they were able to click and attack downhill, and they're sure open field tacklers, which is what you obviously want with linebackers that quick, that fast. So, and like I said, he is just, this is just tip of the iceberg. This guy is going to be getting better and better as he continues to grow and continues to mature. I think he's only 21 or 22 years old. So he's still growing as a player, physically, but also, emotionally. He's going to get, better knowledge of the game and, more comfortable in the defense, in the surroundings, so on and so forth. So we're just going to see Roquan get better and better and better.
And speaking of young players, James Daniels, and now there's talk from Ryan Pace. He was asked about the possibility of potentially moving James Daniels over the center. I think you will agree that Daniels is better at center than he is at guard, and he's not bad at guard. So what are your thoughts about James Daniels if he does make that move to center?
Right, and this is something I was talking about last year towards the end of training camp or preseason. I was like, maybe the best fit, the best way to get all 5, the best offensive linemen out on the field is to have Whitehair play guard and move Daniels to center. So obviously that didn't come to fruition. Eventually they moved him in to start at left guard, started 10 games left guard, had some ups and downs, he had some good games, he had some bad games. But I think if you move him to center, his more natural position, and we've seen Whitehair can't handle guard as well. So if you put him there, I think he's comfortable at guard, Whitehair that is. Daniels, obviously, it's a natural fit at center, and I think that right there will get the Bears the best 5 offensive linemen on the field in terms of, being able to, not only protect Trubisky, but also developing a chemistry and also developing a running game as well.
And then when we got to the 2018 draft, around the 49th, 50th pick, we got wind that the Chicago Bears have made a trade to get back into the second round. And lo and behold, they picked Anthony Miller, a guy that you were clamoring for. And it was like, oh my gosh, when they mentioned Anthony Miller's name, I said, this could be one of the best drafts in Chicago Bears history, just based on those 3 players alone. Miller has been something, huh?
I was so pumped when I heard they picked Anthony Miller. I was excited, and I was a little nervous. I'm like, well, what if he's a bust? And then everyone's going to be like, hey, you were pumping this guy up, But Miller, again, played most of last season. This I think a lot of people either don't realize or forgot. Since that Arizona game, he played with a separated shoulder, pretty much a separated shoulder for most of that season last year. So he had a harness on it. And there's a couple times where it kind of popped out during the game, and he'd miss a week or two just to get back into playing shape again. But again, another guy, that typically for wide receivers, the second year is where you see the big jump in production. There are some that come in and rookies right away and they make an impact. Now Miller had an impact in terms of touchdowns. He had 7 touchdowns, but in terms of receptions and yards and all that stuff, I expect him to take a big leap this year. And I think that's why, going into this offseason, I thought receiver could have been a position where the Bears might go to look to fill with another draft pick, maybe a free agent. But you kind of see what they did here. They brought in Cordell Patterson, who is a receiver, but really is a multifaceted athlete. Basically, you get the ball in his hands, just let him do his thing. But they are going to rely on development from Anthony Miller, Javon Wims, the continued health of Allen Robinson, and of course, Steele Gabriel, and I think that these are the guys they're going to ride with. So I went from having receiver as a possible need for the Bears this offseason to now thinking that's probably one of their team's strengths here. So, and then they are counting heavily on the production, like I said, and development and growth from Anthony Miller and Javon Wims as well.
We got 5 minutes before we get Eric Edholm, the longtime NFL writer, on the line. So let me just say about the rest of the draft picks. Joel Iyiegbuniwe, Bilal Nichols, Kylie Fitz, and Javon Wims. All of these guys have promise with them, and beyond that, we've already seen a return on investment from Bilal Nichols. This guy is going to be a starter in 2019 from game one, and he should be delivering huge dividends right away. You agree with that?
I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, you saw this kid through training camp develop. You remember the practices over at in Bourbonnais, you see him kind of flashing, making some plays, and next thing you know, he carries that over to the preseason games, and then from there, he rolls all right into the season. So, the kid finished with 3 sacks last year, a kid that really wasn't even expected to, play that much. I mean, I really thought he was going to have like a redshirt year where he was just going to basically, sit on the bench and kind of just learn and be on the, undressed, for game days. But no, this guy became a key component on game days and a key component in part of their rotation up front. And when he missed a couple of games because of an injury, you felt his presence there. You felt his, his lack of presence there, that where they missed him, so because he was there, he was a penetrator, for his size, for his ability to get off the ball that quick, to be able to penetrate and go up the gaps and split offensive linemen is very impressive. And again, another kid is just starting to learn, just starting to develop. He is only going to continue to get better.
And I remember Mike Mayock pointing out Bilal Nichols as one of the key picks of day 3 in the draft, singling him out and saying, if you really want to get a good indication of who Bilal Nichols is and what he can do for the Chicago Bears, don't look at his tape from 2017. Look at his tape from 2016, because in 17, Delaware had him as kind of a 3-4 lineman who was just going to occupy a lot of bodies for the defensive lineman to make plays. But it was in his junior season when he had 5.5 sacks that he was allowed to get upfield and make plays, and Mayock said that's a true indication of who this guy is. And we saw that in glimpses with the Bears in his rookie season, and we're going to see a lot more of that moving on.
Exactly. And you're talking about two-gapping. They had him two-gapping where he's basically his first step, instead of it's upfield, his first step is sideways, where he's kind of holding and occupying blockers to see what's going on, trying to read and diagnose. When the Bears had him, they had him going upfield, hitting the gap, trying to get up and create penetration. That's where he utilized not only his size and speed, but his quickness. For a guy that big to be that quick, that's a deadly combination. And we saw him how many times, cut up into the backfield and either, tackle a running back for loss, or even just, maybe not make the play, but, affect the play, because he changed the whole, play flow, had the running back either stop in his tracks and reverse field, and which in that case, then you had his teammates come back and come over here and rally and make a gang tackle and drop the running back for a loss or no gain. So, his presence was felt on game days this past season, and I think, again, just continuing to do the same theme here. These guys are all young, they're all still developing, and I just think I'm so excited. That's why I'm saying this could be a foundational draft for the Bears, where you see these guys develop and become future stars and Pro Bowlers.
I love it when I say something and then you turn it into a scout speak. That's pretty cool. I'm going to learn two-gapping, exactly. I got to learn those terms. I'm learning so much from you, man. This has been a blast being paired up with you and absorbing all the knowledge that you have to share. All right, let's get Eric Edholm on the line.
Hey, this is Eric.
Hey, Eric, it's Aldo Gandia, and with me is Danny Shimon, our chief draft analyst over here at Bears Barroom. How are you?
I'm doing great. What's going on, fellas?
Hey, Eric, how you doing?
Good. We just a little less than a month out from the draft. Kind of crazy. It never really sneaks up on me, but it's it feels like it's a little closer than I realized maybe a couple weast ago.
Yeah, I was just telling Aldo before this tour started. I'm like, hey, it's less than 30 days away. I mean, this is the time of year where you get at least for me, get all excited, start breaking on tape and taking a look at these prospects. And like I said, next thing you know, it's draft day. So yeah.
Eric, are you like a kid in a candy store at this time of the year?
To a degree, yes. I've been doing some stuff with Yahoo Sports, and it's been a little bit of a catch-up mode for me. I've been trying to check out guys I haven't seen yet, double-check things I'd already written or notes I'd taken, just kind of catching back up to speed a little bit. But I think I'm there. Yeah. So it's now is the exciting part, because most NFL teams will leave the owners' meetings, come back, set their boards, and we kind of have some real things in place that are starting to cement a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Eric, you wrote an article for Pro Football Weekly and their draft guide, their 2019 draft guide, and it was about quarterbacks and how NFL teams are looking at obtaining quarterbacks differently. Can you kind of give us the hard ones on your article there?
Yeah, I mean, was this from the draft magazine?
Yes, the Pro Football Weekly Draft Guide magazine article, the 2020 article.
Yeah, obviously it's a really interesting year for quarterbacks this year, but there are a lot of people kind of already thinking about next year's class. The possibility of Tua Tagovailoa. He's been probably the most buzzed quarterback, but Justin Herbert, you guys probably remember 3 months ago, he was atop everybody's mock draft as the number one guy, or at least the number one quarterback. So, Jake Fromm from Georgia, Nick Easton from Washington. I mean, there's a lot of, even Cole McDonald from Hawaii. I mean, there's just a lot of guys next year who could be special. And not all of them will pan out. Some of them will take steps back. And so I think what evaluators have to do, because if you draft a quarterback, unless you're the Arizona Cardinals, that is, but if you draft a quarterback one year, you're probably not taking one the next. So, what they appear poised to do is bailing on Rosen for the allure of Kyler Murray. You don't see that very often. So it tells you that they view him as a special talent. But I think a lot of other teams are also reminding themselves that if we don't get a quarterback this year, it may not be the worst thing. You may not be in a bad position because of next year, but you have to have your roster in order.
In the article, you say that you spoke with a scout, and they mentioned that teams now are perhaps pulling the trigger on getting a quarterback even faster than ever before. And do you think that the Chicago Bears did that in the 2017 draft when they drafted Mitch Trubisky?
Absolutely. It was after they signed Mike Lennon. They had another quarterback on the roster. I mean, it was a preconceived plan at the position they were in, number 3. They knew they could slide up one pick and get it done. And, did they pay above market price to do so? Yes. Were there 2 other quarterbacks that went in the next 8 picks or 9 picks that have, perhaps fared better on a throw-to-throw basis, a game-to-game basis than Trubisky? Yeah, but the approach was smart. What Ryan Pace was trying to do, and there appeared to be a consensus about Trubisky in the building. It was pretty much everybody, maybe except John Fox, but he's not there anymore. It doesn't matter. The scouting parties all kind of decided Trubisky's our guy. And so when you have those situations, you take advantage of them. You don't even think twice. You don't say, we could use a linebacker, we need a safety. You can find those positions. You don't find unemployed quarterbacks sitting on their couch ready to lead a Super Bowl, So if they believe that was their guy, they made it for the right reasons. So I think that's a great example of how teams can be progressive about it. And they ended up starting the clock on them in, week 5 that year. So sometimes your timetable changes out of need.
Eric, you were down at the Senior Bowl. I saw you down there. Danny and I were also down there. So what I'd like to do here is to get both of you guys to talk about who were your favorite quarterbacks down at the Senior Bowl. Why don't you go first, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, I think, with Wednesday's practice being moved indoors, we got a little less of a firsthand look at these guys. But, I thought Drew Lock looked better than Daniel Jones, and they were going, toe-to-toe, same Raiders squad. Ryan Finley looked pretty steady on that team, but nothing special about him. I mean, he looks like a career number 2, occasional spot starter type. It was a tough week for Trace McSorley. It was a tough week for Will Grier. They're different quarterbacks, but neither of those guys, in my mind, really looked outstanding. Gardner Minshew, he's going to be a beauty of the eye of the beholder kind of quarterback. Either, you love his feet, you hate his arm, whatever. Yeah, he is what he is. But I would have to say that Locke had a pretty solid week down there, that he may have, in some people's minds, sort of distanced himself a little from Daniel Jones. But there are other teams that like Jones, and he worked from under center, and he worked from David Cutcliffe. So it's hard to really – it's always going to be different depending on the team you ask.
I agree with you, Eric, wholeheartedly. I mean, the Jones and Locke, to me, were the only two quarterbacks there that they kind of stuck out, amongst the group there. So, Locke's got the physical talent, the arm strength, the mobility to be able to run around. And like you mentioned with Jones, teams like his mind, his way the way he's been coached, the way he's been, played in a pro style system. He's taking snaps from under center. So I think both guys, equated themselves well. I'm having a hard time just kind of grasping this quarterback class. I mean, like I just said, there's positives about Locke, there's positives about Daniel Jones. I mean, I don't get the Kyler Murray, and I know he's a great athlete, but again, a kid that size, I don't know. It's and to go number one overall is to me a huge risk. And the Cardinals, if they do this, trade Rosen and take Murray number one, I think that's a huge risk there. A risk that could set their franchise if they're wrong. If they set the franchise back, years here. So, I'm just having a hard time getting my a grasp on this quarterback class. Do you think there's a chance 4 could go in this first round, or are we just sticking with 3 for now?
There's a chance because, a week or two ago I would have said no, but there seems to be some buzz on Jones. And I think the way it happens, 10 of the last 11 quarterbacks who were drafted in round 1 did so via a team trading up to get him. 10 out of the last 11. And, the one who wasn't, Baker Mayfield. They had the number 1 pick. So, they would have moved up for him. They had the ammunition. So the point is, if you want a QB in round 1, you have to go trade up for him. That's probably going to happen with at least Locke, I think, because I think a lot of people feel like you have to get in front of Denver. So he may go as high as the 9th pick in the draft. Is he worth the 9th pick in the draft? Hey, I'm a Mizzou guy. I don't even think I could say yes to that. But again, it's more about, if you give him a second-round grade, you realistically may, be okay with trading up with up into that part of the draft. I know it sounds crazy, but that you pay for that position. So, yeah, I think there's a chance. I didn't think so a week ago, but the more I've sort of talked to people, I really, really could see Daniel Jones going like 28th to the Chargers pick where they trade down or you know what I mean, or something like that, or they even take him because they say, okay, Phillips 30, whatever, 37 at this point, 8. We didn't get Rosen via trade. Okay, let's take Daniel Jones, or somebody's going to move ahead of them to do it. So there could be. I wouldn't take that bet right now, but in a week I might give you a different answer. Right,
and that's the key there. The Chargers have been doing a lot of work on quarterbacks. A lot of these quarterbacks in this first round are scheduled to go in the first round. So they're a team to keep an eye on. I think the Bengals quietly are doing some work on these quarterbacks as well. So I wonder if they're thinking about trading up, maybe like you're saying, go in and get the guy toward the tail end of that first round, get that extra year, that 5th year on this contract. I initially thought maybe 3, but now I'm with you. I think 4 could very well go in this draft. In this first round.
And not to pimp my own stuff here, guys. I don't mean to be that guy, but tomorrow my mock draft, I actually have the Bengals taking a QB in round 1. And is it going to work out exactly the way my mock draft has it? Of course not. I know there's going to be some trades that upset the the order and everything like that. But Zach Taylor has attended the pro days of Kyler Murray. He's been there. He was at the pro day of Dwayne Haskins. He's done his work on the quarterbacks, and Andy Dalton. It's one of the most team-friendly starting quarterback deals in the NFL. He can walk away right now and have no dead money if they want to, or after next year or whatever. So that reflects where they are with him at this point.
Is there a quarterback in this draft that if he dropped to the 5th or 7th round, where the Bears have 3 picks, 2 picks in the 7th, 1 in the 5th, that you think Ryan Pace might want to draft as a developmental quarterback? Do either one of you guys see a name out there of a quarterback that you would say, yeah, well, maybe take a chance on this guy and try to hide him in the practice squad and develop him? Any names you could share with us?
To fit that offense, Greer ran some similar types of concepts at West Virginia, some totally different, but, I think has shown enough. I don't think Will Green's going to last to the 5th or 6th round, though, so I don't want to necessarily give you that one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of somebody who would be a good fit for that offense. Some of the later guys I like, they are a little scheme-specific. Tyree Jackson from Buffalo, he's fascinating. He's sort of this – he was at the Senior Bowl, too. Laser-armed, 6'6.5" guy, shockingly athletic for how big he is, totally unrefined, has this really long wind-up, but he sort of makes it work. And I think with a couple years of polish on him, I think he could be a really interesting prospect. And I like Britt Rippon out of Boise State. I mean, maybe he's never special, but dude started a lot of football games in college. It has nothing to do with his last name. He's the nephew of Mark Rippon. But it has more to do with the fact that he really manipulates defenders very well. Like, he uses his eyes and moves them around. He's precise. He's just got a calm and a poise about him. Give him a little more talent at receiver and some better linemen up front, and I kind of wonder if he wouldn't be, maybe a low-end NFL starter at some point. So he's one that I like.
You stole my thunder there. Brett Rippon was the guy I was thinking of there, Eric.
Yeah.
So, that's a good call there. Other guys, you can think of, I don't know if he'll last to the 5th round, but, Jarrett Stidham from Auburn. Not a real mobile kid, but he showed to be a little more athletic than we thought he was, as he was playing at Auburn through his collegiate career. Another guy that is kind of intriguing, but he's not really it doesn't have the body to be an NFL starting quarterback is Trace McSorley. Like, he doesn't have the greatest arm strength, but you know what? He's got that moxie, that guts. Kind of, I don't want to call him Baker Mayfield-ish, but he's got that kind of that leadership ability. He'll play tough. His teammates follow him, they rally around him. So if you're going to take a flyer, first of all, I don't think the Bears can afford to take a quarterback with only 5 picks heading into the draft. But if some of these guys go undrafted, that I can see them probably bringing them in. Kyle Shermer from Vanderbilt. Pat Shermer's son. So he's well schooled, well trained, and he's got the body. Arm strength isn't the greatest, but again, in this league, as long as you're accurate and you throw on time, and you got some mobility, you can be pretty successful.
I mean, Kyle Shermer's Chase Daniel. You know what I mean? Like, he's that type of guy where it's like, yeah, he's not going to throw it through a brick wall. Who cares? Is he going to be able to give you a chance in a game like the Thanksgiving game? Yes. Is he good? Is he going to win? Could he, if he started 3 games for you, would you be okay? Probably not. So it's like, that's where I think Kyle Shermer is, or, Easton Stick, I think, could be an interesting backup or something. So, kid out of North Dakota State. But I'm with you. I mean, it's a really mixed bag this year. I think we're talking ourselves into a few of these guys. I think some of them will have success, but, the only one who I think has a chance to be great, and it's because of his electric skills, is Murray. And he also, like you said, could be a flop if he doesn't, hold up against NFL size and defenses and all that.
Well, one kid we didn't bring up is a local kid here, Clayton Thorson from Northwestern.
Yeah.
He's got the size, arm strength, but his game to me was just too inconsistent, too up and down for me to be able to take a chance on him, with those higher round picks. And even though he came into this year, being touted as a possibly first, second day draft pick.
He's Ryan Fitzpatrick, right? You go to the good academic school. You're a little bit shorter than most quarterbacks. Not short, but a little bit shorter. But you've got kind of that surprising athleticism. Like, you see him move a little bit, and you go, oh, this guy can move around a little. I'm sure he's good at pick up hoops. He's obviously a smart guy. But sometimes those guys also hurt themselves because they're too cute. They're too smart. And, and Clayton had some games this year. Like, was it Akron? I remember watching that tape going, this guy's undraftable. He looked horrible. The next game, the Duke game, I didn't think he looked great. That was in a good defense. But like you said, go watch the Iowa tape or go watch there's enough there where I think he's getting drafted somewhere on day 3. And, yeah, I think he'll have a chance to make a roster this year. I can't figure out whether he'll be the guy that's really good or really bad. There's so much up and down, as you said.
Eric, when the Bears pick in the third round, do you think they're going to be targeting a specific position, or are they going to go best player available? Do you have any names in mind that could be potential targets for the Bears with their first pick, which lands in round 3?
Yeah, obviously it's really tough, at this point. But I think to answer your first question, it's no. I think you'd be really doing yourself a disservice if you go in saying we need this or that. No questions asked, And I understand the 5-pick thing. It's tough. Waiting 86 picks, that's very tough. But, it was funny. I was talking to a guy who was on a team, this would have been about 4 or 5 years ago, where his club didn't have a first or second round pick. Ran into him at the combine, was talking to him, and I said, hey, listen, by the way, I'm curious. I'm based in Chicago. I know you're not with the Bears, but, when you guys had that situation, how did it change the way you scouted? And he said, honestly, it was great. He said, because we did all our initial work on the top, 50 guys, let's say, but we knew there was only a chance that maybe 4 or 5 of them were really going to leak down to us. He's like, we didn't even spend any time on the quarterbacks. We knew they were all gone. We didn't spend any time on these pass rushers. We knew they were going to be gone. He said, we focused our energy on about 50, 60 guys in the middle of the draft where they had a few picks. And it's really kind of the same setup as the Bears. So it's going to sound like I'm, saying that, this is going to work out beautifully. I just think it's going to narrow their focus a lot on talent. Less on, certainly some emphasis on a third outside rusher, a running back, a corner, maybe a safety, whatever. I mean, they have a few offensive line, a few spots that could use some depth for sure. They probably need a nickel back or somebody to compete there. But I don't think they're going to go in saying we're taking a corner, or we're definitely taking a running back. Mm-hmm. So the guy I mocked to them, I didn't write out analysis for all 3 rounds, but for teams like the Browns and Saints and Cowboys and Bears, I want to give them a pick in my mock draft. So I always do that, and I went through and mocked out all the other picks just to make sure it was authentic. And I gave him a kid from Central Michigan, Sean Bunting, the corner. He's not big. He's like 6 foot, 190 pounds or something, competitive, tough. Can get a little shocked off the line by a good jam, but he's a competitor. He's an interesting guy, and he tested very well athletically. It's a big Ryan Pace thing. He likes the guys who run great 3 cones and, and bench well and things like that. So, it was just sort of a little bit of an off-the-wall pick because, I think he's more of a day 3 guy. But, it just sort of popped in my head. That's a guy I think the Bears would like. So that was my pick for them. It's just kind of how the board laid out. And when I finished that 3rd round, I realized there was still plenty of running backs left. So they can get somebody in round 4 or 5 at that position if they want. I know that was a long answer. I'm sorry to process my way through it.
No, I love it. This is a podcast, so long answers are welcomed.
I love that name, by the way, because that's a guy, Sean Bunting, I've been raving about in terms of for a possible Bears pick as well. Like you said, he's got the length. He's a very good cover corner, man press corner. To me, he's a little shy when it comes to tackling. I think he's got that little Deion Sanders syndrome there. Doesn't always like to come up downhill and be physical, but in terms of, he's got the recovery speed. So if he's beaten off the line of scrimmage, he is able to recover and get back in phase with the receiver. So I do like that. The one thing with the Bears is, and being in this position, and just like Eric was saying, you got to be prepared. You got to be prepared for, because, every year we see guys that are mocked to go to the 1st, 2nd round, drop. And so I've been going through these lists, guys that have been, consistently being mocked in the 1st, 2nd round. And there's a guy, and Eric, maybe you can shed some light on this, who had a horrible combine, not per se, I think, on the field, but more so off the field. And that's the kid from Florida, Polite. And this guy, on talent alone, he's got, late 1st, 2nd round pick for sure. Now, I'm hearing that he really turned off some teams, Eric, in terms of, I don't know if it's, his attitude or the way he just interviewed. Yep. And he could be a guy that if he's there, 3rd round, that fills a need for the Bears. He's a guy who's got tremendous bend, can turn the corner, athletic as heck. And I think he would be a sensational pick. Again, hoping his off the field issues aren't, severe or not, horrible. So what have you been hearing about Palik? Could he drop that low?
Immature and unprepared were the words that I heard from one team. And then I asked the second team, this is right after the Combine. This is Tuesday of Combine week, so right when guys were getting out of town, and another team said he just didn't look interested at all in the interview process. He looked less interested in the on-field drills because he pulled out after a hamstring injury that people were kind of questioning the severity of. Turns out just yesterday or today, the days all kind of blur together, he pulled a hammy or quad or something at his pro day. So it suggests to teams that, well, A, he may be injury prone. B, he doesn't seem very in shape or prepared for this. I mean, this is the biggest job interview, the only big job interview of his life in football. And he's blowing it. I mean, this is a kid, like you said, who has top 40 or top 30 tape. You watch him and all those traits you said. I think he's the only player in college football, or one of two last year, who had 10 sacks and 5 forced fumbles. I think he had 11 and 6. 6 forced fumbles. I mean, that's hard to do. You guys know he would have been great for the Bears in the Alex Brown days and everything else. So I mean, yeah, is he absolutely fascinating if he gets to that pick? Sure. I still think he's going to go a little higher than that, but
okay.
You never know. I don't think the things he's done are like, we're not talking about Aaron Hernandez here, okay? I mean, he's not that, but he doesn't take care of his business. If he's actually a good kid. He's sort of since high school sort of had this Twitter handle, Retire Moms is his Twitter handle. And he said, my dream in life is to get an NFL contract, help her out so she can either have her hair salon, because she does hair, or retire. So it's like he's got a good heart, I think. I think he's a good kid. I just think he's extremely immature and maybe not ready for, the big boy world. So it's just going to be a matter of him growing up. If you're with Khalil Mack every day, if you're with Leonard Floyd in the contract season, I mean, maybe it's the perfect situation for him. Who knows?
Boy, I can't tell you how many times I've seen athletes and just regular people who, when they're close to achieving their dream, they just self-destruct for some reason. It's like something is triggered inside I'm not going to allow myself to succeed at what I wanted to do. And maybe that's what this young man is going through. I wish him all sorts of luck.
You're describing me at my college age. You just gave the Eric Edholm scouting report at the University of Missouri in the late 90s. So I can relate. You know what I mean? I did everything in my power to mess things up as much as humanly possible. So again, when I talk about these kids, it's not for me. It's hard because I get it. I was immature till I was 28, so it's a tough call for these GMs when they're making these big investments.
So Eric, obviously this has been deemed that the defensive line draft, and there's a chance, I don't know if it'll happen, but there's a chance that this draft could have or could break the record for most defensive linemen picked in the first round. I think the number is 20. Do you think that has a chance of happening?
20 defensive linemen were drafted in the first round before?
Yeah, I forgot which year it was. I thought I saw that stat. They're saying this.
My God, that sounds insane when you say it. But I mean, I guess if you count ends and tackles and everything, maybe. If that's the number, I don't think so. But I'd have to sort of, rifle through quickly. Bosa, Williams, Josh Allen, if you call him. I mean, he's an edge rusher, so that's 3. Ed Oliver, Montez Sweat, that's 5. Yeah,
Farrell, the kids from Clemson, the 3 guys from Clemson.
Yeah, 2 kids from Clemson, Wilkins and Dexter Lawrence, Rashawn Gary. Yeah, I mean, all of a sudden, we're almost double digits. So
Brian Burns, Farrell.
Yeah, Cleveland Farrell for sure. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see what happens. But if we say 4 quarterbacks go, we try to do the math now. 4 quarterbacks go, we got 28 picks, and then we got receivers, we got running backs, we got tight ends, so offensive linemen. So it's going to be hard, but it's something to keep an eye on. That's what I'm going to be tracking and see if they can break that record.
I don't think there'll be more than 5 DBs in round 1. It could be 1 corner, maybe 2. I don't think a 3rd corner gets in round 1. I think maybe a couple of safeties. Offensive line, I would think there's probably about 5 who go in round 1. Maybe 1 running back, maybe 3 receivers. Yeah, 2, but there'll be 2 tight ends too. So we're running out of real estate pretty quickly here.
Exactly. So your 2 corners, just curious. I'm assuming Greedy Williams and Baker, DeAndre Baker. Are you 2 corners?
I would say Byron Murphy and Greedy Williams. Yeah, those are the 2.
Okay.
I don't think DeAndre. I don't know. I mean, is there a spot late in round 1 for him? Maybe. He's another guy who has,
underwhelmed in the process.
Yeah, and in meetings and interviews with teams, he's already said Dion was the best guy to do it before me, and you love confidence in guys, but there's some football character issues and some teachability issues I think that are there. So I don't know. Yeah, I would put him in that early 2nd round range, but maybe I'm forgetting a team in round 1 that likes him.
Well, one kid I fall in love with in this process, and I'm curious what you think, is Justin Lane from Michigan State.
Yeah, former wide receiver, switched to corner. They've done that a lot up there. They had, remember Tony Lippett, who's the Giants corner now. He was drafted by the Dolphins. He was playing both positions at one point. They had, in fact, who was the Bears running back from Michigan State? Langford.
Yep. Jeremy
Langford. Yeah, he played corner, played running back. So they've done that a lot up there. This is not an unusual thing at Michigan State. Justin Lane was he had I think his first start was against Northwestern. Actually, he ran a pick back for a pick 6, and he's got the size, the length, the athleticism. He turns his hips really well. I mean, there's a lot to like, and there's a few guys in kind of would I be stunned if he was a late 1st round pick? No. I think he's probably going to be a 2nd rounder, but I wouldn't be shocked at all if he crept into the back end of round 1. So he's top 50 pick for sure.
Eric, at the top of the show before you joined us, I asked Danny to kind of grade Ryan Pace's 2018 draft, and Danny, months ago, before any of those players took the field in OTAs, gave it an A-, and now that the season is over, he gave it an A+. What's your grade now that you've seen the 2018 draft class play some football?
It was really kind of hard to argue with Roquan as the 1st pick. I felt like, as in the days leading up to the draft, I said if the Colts don't take him at 6, I think he's going to the Bears. It just felt so much like a player who would be the perfect fit in that situation. And so,
sure.
Who was the 2nd round pick?
James Daniels.
I'm sorry,
right?
Daniels was one of my favorite players. Yeah, and he, it took him a little while, right? I mean, they were kind of biding their time with him, but I knew that was fine. He's so young. He's still getting developed. I think he'll end up at center, and I know they've. That kind of leaked out last year that they may flip-flop him in Whitehair, and to me that would be best. I think that would I have a feeling James Daniels would be a little bit better at center. The Iowa coaches liked him better at center. I think he just is going to be one of the best in the league. So that was one of my favorites. The Anthony Miller pick at the time, I thought, wow, you pay a big price for him. Look, the touchdowns were there. It was a little up and down. He kind of fights himself a little bit, but those Memphis coaches swore by him, and I think he's too hard a worker. I don't know if he'll become that Antonio Brown-like receiver, but he's good. I love what I've seen from him so far. So, yeah, I mean, those 3 guys alone look like, cornerstones to me. I think that was the foundation of a really nice group there. And, maybe Kevin Tolliver, undrafted guy, too, ends up. I mean, look, he's another kind of knucklehead. At least he was in college. But the athletic skills. I mean, this is a 5-star recruit, and I know he didn't play much last year, but it's like that dude had 2nd round athletic traits. He should have been a higher pick, but
I was shocked
he should
he
have
was
been picked
undrafted.
at all. Yeah,
I was shocked.
Right. I mean, it was just like I thought he'd be a 5th or 6th rounder, but when every other player on the team at LSU has their longer cleats on, and he's the only one who didn't wear the right shoes for the Alabama game, and Alabama throws at him 6 times in a row. And the coaches say, "Why are you slipping out there?" "Oh, I got the wrong cleats on." It's that kind of stuff that he was sort of clueless about things in college. You know what I mean? So I think he's probably growing up. And they'll see what they got this year and whether he can develop.
Eric, when you were down at the Senior Bowl, did you see any guys that you said to yourself, boy, this guy would be a great day 3 pickup, a guy who has tons of potential, who looks good, who is reacting to the coaching down here really well, who is very, very competitive. This guy is a guy I'm going to be looking for to see if he drops to day 3. He could be a big steal.
Yeah, the problem is the 3 or 4 guys that I said that about are now all day 2 guys.
That's what happens.
It's all changed. Yeah, I said, hey, Terry McLaurin's going to make a great 4th round pick. I mean, he could go in the 2nd. You know, It was like, hey, Rennell Wren from Arizona State looks really good. He could be a great 4th or 5th rounder. No, he's going to be a 3rd round. You know, so there were a lot of guys like that kind of. You know, in my mind, I just wasn't caught up on a lot of them, and to me, I hadn't heard their names or that much buzz about them, and so my perception was that they were day 3 guys. But I'm trying to think of maybe a little more off the.
A guy for me was Lonnie Johnson, the corner from Kentucky. I think he really shined up, and now I'm seeing 2nd round. I don't know where you have him going in your mock, but I'm hearing Lonnie Johnson 2nd round. You know, guys like that are really. The other defensive back that Jimmy Moreland, the kid from
Moreland from
I think he ran a 4.4 40. He's got that slot quickness to be able to play a 2-way goal. So I think he really helped himself, you know, in terms of, you know, catching some eyes. I think he was actually in the East-West Shrine game and then got called up to the Senior Bowl, and the momentum just kept going, just kept picking up, and I think now he's probably going to be, you know, if not a late day 3, early day. Not late day 2, early day 3 guy.
Yeah, I think you're right about Moreland, and he was somebody. Him and that kid from South Dakota State, Brown, Dominic Brown, I think his name is. The first time I'd seen either one of them, and you know, neither guy looked overwhelmed. You know, I mean, that's what's so cool about that game is when you see the smaller school guys, the FCS guys, and the prospects who haven't really gotten their chance to stand out, and they hold their own against SEC players and Big Ten players. It's like that's a cool event for them, and it matters. You know, those going to the Senior Bowl and performing well one week. Yeah, you have 2 or 3 seasons of tape. That's most important, but it plays a big role. You know, so I agree with. I'm not a massive Lonnie Johnson guy. I like him, but he gives me a little bit of a Trumaine Johnson vibe, like. You know what I mean? Like, he'll get paid. Like, somebody will give him a second contract, but he'll always sort of leave you wanting a little bit more. But no doubt, I mean, 6'2", you know, he transitioned really well out of his breaks, you know, out of his back pedal. He looked fluid, you know, and I watched a lot of Kentucky tape because they've got like 4 dudes, Derek Beatty and Mike Edwards, and they have Josh Allen, of course, up front. And they have a lot of good talent on that defense, and you know, he was absolutely one of them.
Yeah, that's right. Because whenever I watch Kentucky tape, whether it's about Josh Allen or if I'm watching Lonnie Johnson, Mike Edwards would flash, and I'm like, all right. And the other safety, West, would flash, and then Derek Beatty would make plays. I mean, if I could draft the entire secondary for Kentucky, I think I might do that. But Mike Edwards, that's a guy. I'm curious. Do you think he could play nickel?
Yeah, I was just gonna say. He's one of those guys. I'm trying to think of a good comp for him, like almost
I see a little
Lando Skandrick or somebody. Like, meaning if you played him at safety, he'd probably be a perfectly fine safety. If you played him at nickel and gave him a couple of years, he could be a good nickel. I really think so. Is he super quick or fast? No, but he is a smart football player. There's a lot of subtle stuff going on with him. He cheats over before the throw, and all of a sudden you notice he's knocking it away. And it was a film study play. It was an instinct play. And you go, you know, look, this dude isn't big. He's not fast, but he is a good, heady football player. So if he's like a 4th or a 5th round pick, which I suspect he is, I just think he's going to make a roster and play for 8 years and just be a really solid pro, you know?
Exactly.
But, yeah, I don't know. I like him. I think he can play safety, either spot, and I think he could probably do an okay job in the nickel for you.
I could listen to you guys talk football all night long. This has been really, really interesting half hour. Eric, I know we booked you for a half hour, and so I in respect out of your time, I'm going to let you go. But please tell our audience where they can catch that mock draft, that 3-round mock draft that's being published on Thursday. This podcast is actually released on Thursday morning, so let people know where they can check out your work.
Yeah, and I'll send you guys the bill for the last 6 minutes. I'm totally kidding. Yes.
That's to Aldo Gandia.
Yeah, right.
That's on me.
Thank you.
It'll be at Yahoo Sports, I believe, sometime on Thursday. They'll be putting that up, and I'll also have the latest in my countdown of my top prospects. I think today was Taylor Rapp from Washington today, and tomorrow I'm forgetting. Maybe Dexter Lawrence, maybe from Clemson. I got to look. But, so check out the top 100 prospects. We're down to number 27, as I said. We got the mock as well. So that's where it'll be.
And I'm a big Taylor Rapp fan, by the way. I love that kid.
He's like, he's one of those guys, like, you know who my comp is for him? Mike Brown, Bears safety.
Yep. Like, he's a throwback.
Like
I would say he's a throwback.
He's not tall, he's just gonna make plays, and he's probably a better box safety than a deep guy, but he can play both. I think he's really good. I'm actually a little shocked there hasn't been more buzz on him, but I think he could go late 1 or early 2.
I was just going to ask you, you think he's making the first round, or is he going second round for sure, you think?
He might. There's a couple teams back there that like safeties and need safeties. The Rams need a safety. The Packers need a safety. I know that, I think they need one more, so the season's been all about getting depth for them. And so I think, you look at a couple of those, even the Patriots at 32, and Bill Belichick loves drafting safeties. Devin McCourty could retire after this year. Chung's a free agent, I think. And so they got, I could see, it wouldn't stun me if he is gone by 32, absolutely.
Eric, I can talk to Eric all night.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do like a late night version of our draft series here, and just go from midnight to 6 a.m. for us to draft.
The meter's running, baby.
I love it. Eric Edholm can be found on Twitter at ERIC_EDHOLM, and we can blame him for the phrase Deflategate.
You guys have me back on the show sometime. I'll tell that story. It's kind of a funny story. I'll give you that one.
Oh, well, great. We're looking forward to that. And also, you got a Facebook page, correct?
I do. It's Eric Edholm, all one word, with the NFL. The Eric Edholm NFL.
All right. We will be retweeting your work on our Twitter handle. And Eric, really a pleasure talking to you. And we look forward to our next chat and learning more about the origin of Deflategate.
All right. Pleasure's mine. See you, Phil.
Thanks, Eric. This was great. This is fun. Thank you so much.
That was fabulous. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to move directly into our interview with Rickey Neal. This was a pre-recorded interview that Danny and I and Bearlissimo did with Rickey Neal. Bearlissimo's part of the interview. He recorded his questions because the interview took place at 2 a.m. his time. So he sent those to me, and I dropped them in during the interview with Rickey Neal. Danny, you have anything that you want to add before we roll the interview?
Once you hear the interview, you can see that this kid, not only is he determined to make it as a football player and make it to the NFL, but he's also a kid who has a plan for off the field. And he's got a good head on his shoulders, a good heart. He's a kid who's got a plan. So, and that's a key with some of these draft prospects. When you sit down and you do these interviews with them, that's why they say, at the combine, one of the more important things, it's not the drills, the on-field drills, the 40 times. It's sitting down face to face, eye to eye with these prospects and getting to know them. And once you sit down, and once you and I had this interview with Rickey Neal, it was an eye-opening. It was something where we know a kid who, like I said, is determined to make the NFL, but also has a plan to do some good in this world.
He's 6 foot 1 inch, 235 pounds, 9-inch hands, a wingspan of 79 inches. His 40 topped out at 4.58 on his pro day. He's got a vertical of 32 inches, a broad jump of 9 feet 10 inches. Over the last 2 years, he had 30 tackles for a loss, 18 sacks. His name, Rickey Neal. Rickey, how are you?
I'm pretty well. I just made it up in town. I got my pro day tomorrow.
Right.
At 1:30. So I actually have a workout the 12th. I got the local invitation to the Bears camp, so you can expect to see me there bright and early. So that's awesome. So right now, taking it one day at a time and doing the best I can.
Rickey, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you at this point of your football career?
I think 1 to 10 is way too small of a scale. I'm so far beyond that. I'm a kid in a candy store for this game that I love. So,
and I promise we probably could talk football 3 hours with you, but I promise to respect the fact that you've got a workout tomorrow. So, at any point during the interview, you say, "Guys, I need to get some rest," you'll let us know, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, Danny, awesome. Why don't you start with the first question?
So, when I break down players, I scout them before I go into the tape. I do some background work. I look into as far as Pop Warner sometimes high school. So doing some research on you, I went back to your days over at Racine Horlick, and I was a little curious. I found out that you led your team to a 2013 city championship as an all-area quarterback. So the obvious question there is, were you ever given an opportunity to play quarterback in college, or were you just strictly recruited as a defensive player?
I came in as an athlete. I was always very versatile. I was given the opportunity to play quarterback. But I felt that I had a better chance. I want to give the coaches the ability to use me where they see fit, so I can fit team needs better. I know if I couldn't be a quarterback, I can be a receiver, running back, or anything else the coaches thought of. Just use me the way you need to, and I'll do my job.
You played multiple positions right before settling in at defensive end. Tell us some of the positions that you played, and how did that go for you? What did you like?
I liked all the positions. I just threw that all the way out there. The only position I didn't like was defensive tackle, because you're always getting double teamed. And when you're a guy, like if you're only 230 pounds or 225, you don't want to be down there in a 2Y. Right. Yeah.
So do you miss playing offense?
No, not a day. I love to hunt.
Instead of getting hit, you're the one doing hitting.
Yes, sir.
Well, just a quick tip. If Matt, the Bears head coach Matt Nagy was known last year for pulling players out of defensive meetings and putting them in on offense. So you make the squad. You better get that arm loose. You might be in there throwing a pass here on a 2-point conversion or something like that. So you never know.
Oh, right. That's perfectly fine with me. I can throw it, catch it, run it. Intercept it, fumble it.
You've got a degree in innovation and entrepreneurship. Is that correct?
Bachelor's of Liberal Studies. I'm majoring in communications, though.
I gotcha. Okay. And so after you're done playing 15 seasons for the Chicago Bears and playing Hall of Fame caliber football, what do you want to do with your life?
Well, I love going to church. I play 5 instruments: the piano, drums, guitar, bass, and saxophone. I'm currently the head musician. Well, not other than my apostle at my church, Livers Crusaders on 1010 St. Patrick in Racine, Wisconsin. Shout out to them.
Nice.
I play for multiple choirs and kind of play around the city in different states for choirs, gospel choirs, and musicians. So I really want to invest in nonprofits in the churches, and I also kind of want to help some third world countries have better food and water supply.
Excellent.
So I'm going to be doing basically a lot of nonprofit work once I finish, and scholarships and workshops, and just trying to spread the wealth of knowledge.
That's great, man.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So going back to your current days at playing at Northern Iowa, your D-line coach is Bryce Pop, of course, a former Packers player. How has he helped you prepare for this journey, and what would you say has been the best piece of advice that he has given you so far?
Oh, there's so many pieces of advice of him. There's not one piece, because everything that comes out his mouth is good. Really, he's such a. I can go on and on about Bryce Pop, how good of a man, how honorable a man he is, and how much wisdom he shared. How he have elevated my game. He developed my bull rush much better. So I'm a smaller guy, but he really taught me the stiff arm, the Reggie White hump. I can hump guys really big just by out leveraging them, and the counter moves. He added a nice, consistent package to my pass rush game, and better run stopping defense and technique, and doing everything doing the simple things every day. That's what we really focused on, doing the simple things every day. Yeah,
I do notice.
Okay, this is one thing that I do remember. I know what I'm talking about.
No,
Pop, he said, obstacle is the way. That's one thing I will always remember. So a lot of people want to take the easy way out, but to take the obstacle, because going through those difficult situations in life is what shape you and make you. So,
gotcha. Yeah, I noticed that when you pass rush, I like the way you win a leverage battle by dipping your shoulder, getting underneath the offensive lineman's pad level. So I'm assuming that's something like Bryce had ingrained in you and kind of showed you how to do that. Because like you said, you're a shorter guy. Some of these guys are 6'5", 6'4", but the way you dip your shoulder, get underneath their pad level, and get right by them, I really noticed that on your tape.
Thank you.
Is that something that Bryce kind of taught you the technique and showed you some of that stuff?
Okay, so as far as the dip, I have to credit that to honestly my parents for genetics. First off, second, Coach David Brown. He is now the head defensive coordinator for North Dakota State University. We used to always run a circle drill, and we worked circle drill, hands, feet. So under him, my pass rush, that's when I led my junior season, led the Missouri Valley Conference in sacks that year, his first year coaching me. So we had a great time, and I really became a fluent pass rusher with that. So I was able to use a lot of my spin move, my speed to pull.
Yep.
Then long arm came later on. I was always good at getting my hands up into the quarterback face, deflecting balls. So mirror hand, that's percent.
I definitely noticed that on your ability to convert speed to power. You got some pop in your hands, and the way you just you popped the chest of the offensive tackle, you kind of rocked them back. So I do notice that on your tape. You do have a sweet spin move. I don't think you use it as much as I'd like to see you use it, though.
You can't always get them with the best, so that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's when I saw him, like, whoa, that caught my eye when you that spin move you have there. So the other thing is scouting your tape, Rickey, is I noticed that Northern Iowa used you predominantly as a defensive end and as a stand-up outside linebacker. Do you have a preference between having your hand in the ground or standing up in a 2-point stance? Which one do you feel places you in the best position to succeed as a pass rusher going forward?
Okay, so that's a good question. So I'm looking at the chains. If it's third down, third and long, I'm probably most likely feel comfortable getting in a 3-point stance if I know I'm blitzing and I'm from the defensive end. If I'm 3-4 outside linebacker, third and long, I'm showing like I'm dropping. And then I come over with a stagger stance or the BB stance, and then I'll pass rush. Since I have training by Daniel Bullock, he was the defensive backs coach for UNI one of my freshman years, and Coach Brandon Lynch. I'm really comfortable coming out of a 2-point stance or the 3-point. It depends on the play call and a down the distance, which one I prefer, though.
Got you. So then, like I said earlier, you're listed at 6'1", 240 pounds. Obviously that's considered a bit undersized for an NFL edge rusher. So I was curious, have you been approached by scouts, coaches, teams about switching positions? Possibly to an off-ball linebacker position, like say the Sam backer, or possibly even going to like an inside linebacker?
No teams have approached me with that, but as I have the same mentality as I did in college, and as I did in high school. I'm always willing to be shifted around for what the coach. I want to be molded. I like being molded. So shape me the way you need me to, so we can win.
Let me bring Bearlissimo in here with one of his pre-recorded questions that has to do with the Chicago Bears.
As I'm sure you're aware about, the Chicago Bears have got a rich and tremendous history about ferocious defense, and last year was no exception. So tell us, for those who haven't watched your tape or been able to catch your games live, why should the Bears take a chance on you, and what will you be able to do for the team?
So, my. He's putting the pressure on me right away. Why should the Bears take a chance on me? Well, you have Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack, he draws a lot of attention. You want another elite pass rusher, dropper on the other side. Also can play middle and will backer too. So I can be that other extra piece, like your mini Khalil Mack. To the other side, teams are going to get so focused on that dominant player. Then we also have other dominant players making plays, and, we taking off.
Excellent. Well, he had a question about that includes Khalil Mack. Let me play this one.
Ricky, if you manage to get on the Bears, you'll have a chance to learn and to watch and be around one of the best players at your position in the NFL in Khalil Mack. Khalil's actually listed as 6'3", 250, which is not too dissimilar to your height and weight profile, although you do measure a little bit shorter. I'm sorry about that. With that sort of physical dimension and what you see from players like Khalil Mack and their ability to perform at the highest of levels in the NFL, what would it mean for you to be on the same field, in the same practice room, and to be able to sort of watch tape with, learn from? What would you hope to pick up from a player like Khalil Mack, and what do you like most about his pass rush repertoire?
Okay, so I'll start with what do I like most with his pass rush repertoire first. He does all the same moves that I do. He has the great long arm, great chops, speed to power. He gets the offensive linemen off their leverage, off their line. He plays with their shoulder, their mind games. He's versatile. It would be an honor to learn and film room with Khalil because honestly, I love to film. So I mean, it'd be great to learn with just about anybody who know anything more than I do up in the film room because I just love growth in general and I want to grow. So if you got something to teach me, I want to be that sponge. I want to glean all that knowledge. And I kind of forgot the other questions.
Let's move.
I couldn't remember because I was mesmerized by his voice, by Bearlissimo's voice. It's that accent.
He did. You know what? He did tell me I'm shorter. He kind of apologized for me being shorter. I don't know. You know,
it's the gentle guy.
It's the English. They're so polite about stuff.
I'm sorry, you're short. Okay.
Well, we talked about earlier. You talked about you leading the Missouri Valley Conference in sacks, and we've kind of gone over your stats here. We know your tackles for losses, so on and so, quarterback hurries. But the one stat that really caught my eye was in your career you have 8 forced fumbles. And that's something that really I love seeing in a defensive player, especially a guy, off the edge and come in, he can pry the ball loose. And when watching your tape, you not only get the ball away from the quarterbacks, but you also are at running backs. You're ripping away, you're trying to get the ball out of there. What can you attest to your determination, to your ability to pry the ball away from these ball carriers and quarterbacks?
I know that to win, we need the ball. And being on offense, I know, and being a quarterback of an offense too, I know that sometimes the offense timing is just not there and we're just not clicking like we should be. Even though we practice for hours and hours, today just kind of not our day and we're going to need our defense to pick us up. So being a defender, I want that ball and I have the opportunity to go hit the quarterback. And I get to help my team. I can make the turnover and force fumble. Everything. I get the interception, the tip ball, so I put the pressure on the quarterback so my teammates can get an interception or something.
It's evident on your tape. You are. I mean, when you come to get the quarterback, you come with mean intentions, and I that's one of the things I graded you high on in terms of when you get past the edge and you flank to the quarterback, you have that closing burst, that speed that. And when you come, you come with your hands and you're ready to knock that ball away. So you can see on your tape that you're not only going after the quarterback to sack him, but you want that ball. So that is evident on your tape when I scouted your tape.
Yes, sir. Got to get the money. Secure the bag. Secure the bag.
Let me bring in Bearlissimo here, who's got a question about your arm length.
Okay.
Ricky, off the back of that question, I'd like to ask, what's your plan if a tackle manages to get his hands on you? He's got long arms, he's able to outreach you. What is your plan in your pass rush? How are you going to defeat those hands that have got onto your body? And what are you going to do to make his day go from being really good in his head to being a really bad day really quick?
First off, I gotta play with my alignment. That's one of the first things that's going to help me right away. I gotta back up or I get tighter, and I have to make sure I'm getting a good jump up off the ball. If I have a good step on him, he can have long arms, and I have quick arms. Your long arms have to travel a longer distance, which means my fast eyes can see your long arms coming, and my faster hands can swipe them away and keep swiping and keep swiping. But if you kind of as far as run blocking is a little bit different, So if a tackle or off a guard get his hands up on you faster and they're longer, you kind of have to get your hands in the middle of their chest and just kind of play with them. And not play with them, you have to move them either left or right, like a peak drill. It's a peak drill I've seen. You butt and press. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Butt and press. Basically would be the technique that I use.
Clearly, you're a student of the game, so this is not about you just strapping it up and going out there and going mano a mano. You're constantly thinking and applying what you've learned in the classroom, in the film room, and so forth to your play. Safe to say, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You said earlier you're into film study. Do you have intentions of after your playing career, being a coach or continuing in this game as a coach possibly?
I can't say that because that's a lot of more time dedicated. I am big up with being a family man too as well. So I haven't even decided if I want to coach my future kids yet. So that's some conversations for older Rickey to have. Younger Rickey, he's trying to get in right now.
Well, speaking of, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Danny.
No, I'm saying younger Ricky's trying to secure the bag.
Yeah, I like that.
Well, speaking of conversations, Bearlissimo had a question about conversations with the former player at your school.
Rickey, you had become the second UNR graduate, I believe, in 3 years following DeAndre Hall, who was selected by the Chicago Bears previously. So Bear Scouts clearly know where UNR is. Although he's now with the Philadelphia Eagles, have you had a chance to speak to him about his experience in the NFL and with the Chicago Bears? And what, if anything, did you learn from him?
No, I did not get the opportunity to speak with him about his NFL career. But when he was at University of Northern Iowa, he was one of the most fluent men I've seen ever go through bag drills, even ran routes sometimes, and his technique, he really was crafty with his technique, had great length. So I learned to, even if I'm physically and more athletically better than another person, beat them with technique. Beat them with better technique, even if you're still just better than them. So I always use technique, and I got that from him, which he got from Brandon Lynch, defensive back coach. So
nice. And David Johnson was there too, right? I think that was your freshman year, and that might have been his tail end. You guys might have crossed paths there. The running back for the Cardinals.
Yeah, many times. I had the honor to do redshirt lifting because that's like. Redshirts don't even have to redshirt. You can play 4 games this year and don't even redshirt as of last year. Well, they didn't have that rule when I was there, so I redshirted, and I got the opportunity to go against him every day up on scout team, and I will never forget. He made me a lot better because obviously he was really hard to tackle.
So, he's fast too, man. Not only big and strong, but he's quick and fast.
I think the way he cuts laterally is like you don't suspect it. You just don't suspect that. He's like he can be running full speed one way, but cut laterally straight and run straight down the line as if he didn't miss a beat. And he's so fluent and he's so strong and explosive. And he's like a gift from God, like mini Hercules.
Yeah.
Speaking of speed, at your pro day and when you work out for the Chicago Bears, what are you hoping to clock in speed-wise, and just what are you hoping overall to prove to these scouts?
40 times, I like to be humble and say I'm going to run for sure. I want to run under a 4.6. That's what I'm going to say. I have confidence in myself. For a fact, I'm going to run over a 4.6. As far as what do I want Chicago Bears to know, that you're getting a player that if you're outside, whether you're playing street football, alley football, or backyard football, you want me on your team. Because when I'm on your team, it gives your team the best chance of winning. I'm willing to do whatever it takes, whenever it's needed, what it's want, and I want to do it too.
Well, I'll tell you that. I'll tell you what. That's exactly the words General Manager Ryan Pace and Head Coach Matt Nagy will love to hear from people. You know, they're building not only a winning team here in Chicago, but they're also building a winning culture. And players like you are what they're looking for to fill the roster. Bearlissimo had a question about special teams. Let me roll that for you.
Rickey, I see that from the tape as well that you've also had experience in playing special teams. What can you bring to that unit, as that's one of the best ways to actually stay on an NFL team?
So start off with, like I said, I like to hunt earlier on in the video. Kickoff taught me that. Playing the 5, the kickoff 4, experience 3 down in the 2 on, well, not the 2, 5, 4, and 3 on kickoff. Lots of experience over there. I like to make plays. It's an exciting unit. It's a game changer. Punt team. I love. I'm really good at jamming. I have really great technique to jam and hold them up to give our punter enough time to get off the ball, and pursue skills as well. I have a high motor and I want to go get the ball. As punt return, I have a good technique to hold them and give our punt returner a good distance, and another high motor, so I'm making extra blocks. IQ to know where to go and see everything, to communicate even within the play too. So, like I said, just out there running around, having fun.
You know what? I love your communication skills, because I think that's an underrated part of the game. When the players are out there on the football field, they got to talk to one another, and you've got to find the words to quickly communicate what's going on. And you strike me as a guy who can really help lead a team to success by how you're communicating out there. Is that something you take pride in?
For sure. I love to lead because I love to follow. It's deep.
I
know that's deep.
Yeah, you got me thinking.
Gonna think about that.
I love it.
That's awesome.
Danny, what else you got?
Yeah, as I was gonna say, talking about special teams, he had a block kick against Iowa. Rickey did, and although he used leverage to leap off his teammates, you can't do that in the NFL. Just FYI, there, you're gonna get a penalty for that.
If a man is hungry, he's going to find a way to eat.
I love it.
So, the other question I had was, I watched the game against North Dakota State, and obviously the Bears, another position they're looking into this draft is running backs. And Bruce Anderson is a guy that has come up. His name has come up in terms of possibly fitting the Bears offense, because of his speed he has, the explosiveness. He had a pretty good game against you guys, just kind of as an opponent. Can you give us a scouting, your view of Bruce Anderson and what kind of player he is?
Bruce Anderson, he was actually a surprise talent to come when I played against him. I'll have to be honest right here. I played against him and he had a good game. I feel like if we played against him again, that wouldn't happen.
Okay.
So I ain't saying that there's nothing like bad about him, but he didn't really oppose as a threat. But I don't want to say, but he is a good player and a great athlete.
Okay.
Well, that's totally fair, and that's the attitude you should have. It's like, hey, he's a good player, but that ain't going to happen again. Now, one of the things about the Chicago Bears, we talked a little bit about their culture, is they like to have fun with Chicago, and Bearlissimo has a question regarding
Club Dub.
Yeah, that's right. It's coming right up here.
One of the things that I'm always encouraged to see, and certainly I like to see a bit of attitude, and certainly we have that with the Chicago Bears, whether it be sort of club dub celebrations to celebrations on the field when there's an interception or a touchdown or a sack, and also obviously club dub, and the team do actually have dance-offs each Saturday, player against player. So what can you bring to the celebration front, and can you hold yourself in can hold your own in a dance-off?
I definitely can hold my end in the dance off if need be. As far as on the field celebration, it's just business. I'm gonna act like I've done it before because I know I want to get up and do it again, and I will do it again in the future. So I probably you won't see me celebrate too much because I'm already looking forward to see how I can make the next play. That play is over. As far as outside of practice and have fun with the teammates and adding to celebrations, I'm all for it. So whatever D-line got, and it'd be great to get to know these guys, do their funny dance moves, and see what we got. We'll bring something to the table.
Awesome. Did you get a chance to see much of the Chicago Bears defense last season?
If you want me to be honest,
absolutely.
No, I really don't watch NFL football because I was so focused up on college football and what I was doing. I figured if once I get to the NFL, I'll focus up on the NFL. But for me to be the best that I can be at the moment, I need to focus on college football. So instead of watching NFL football teams, I will go on Sundays and I will watch my opponent, or I'll go watch me. And another friend of mine will watch film and we'll see how we can get better because I love their talent and I love watching them, but I also want to be there. So to be there, I need to put the work in. And film is a great way to do that. So the opportunity on Sundays I just watch film about my opponent and myself.
Man, I thought I was a film junkie. It looks like Rickey's got me beaten here. So, but on the same end, there is there a quarterback, an NFL quarterback, that you are, let's say, looking forward to or chomping at the bit to sack?
Oh, obviously Tom Brady.
The GOAT, huh?
Come back, Brady. Come back.
Tom Brady.
I know Gronkowski. He just retired. I want to play against that great talent. But yes, the Patriots have one of the best, if not the best, offensive line in the NFL. Statistically, I think I'm not sure. Either way, they're protecting Brady, and he's been doing great for many years. Okay, so
all right, I like it. He's switching Rodgers. For the top.
Let's go sack Aaron Rodgers. Let's go sack Aaron Rodgers. How about any other quarterback? Baker Mayfield. He's new. Mm-hmm. Why not? He has a lot of juice. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I would advise that when you meet with the Bear Scouts, the three names you should bring up are Rodgers, Stafford, and whoever's the quarterback with the Vikings.
Kirk Cousins. Come on.
Kirk Cousins. Okay. Yeah, I forgot about him.
Okay.
$84 million.
I like that tip. I appreciate that.
You got it. Hey, you grew up in Racine, Wisconsin, so were you a Packer fan growing up? Is that safe to say?
No, that's not safe to say.
Excellent.
Oh, okay. I was a little nervous there. I was a little worried.
I didn't start liking Brett Favre until he went to the Jets. That's just because he took Mark Sanchez's job.
So, Jets fan or?
No, I'm not a Jets fan, but I was really tired of Mark Sanchez. I'm not gonna lie.
Gotcha.
Okay.
He was fumbling, throwing 5 picks. He wasn't ready.
I think New York was tired of Mark Sanchez as well, my friend. So you're not the only one.
So we're talking to you the day before your pro day. We're really, really excited about what is going to happen to you. We're going to follow you on social media to get updates on how things went. If you have any final words to share with Chicago Bears fans, please do so now.
I miss Brian Urlacher. How about that?
Yes. Hey, I noticed here in one article that you're an anime fan, huh?
Yeah, I am. Hi, kid. Yes, I am. I love anime.
Yeah, that stuff is great. I got my daughter into it 15 years ago when she was about 10 years old, and since then we've just been buying DVDs and watching stuff on Netflix. It's a beautiful, beautiful art form, and I'm glad you're into it. It's pretty cool. What's your favorite anime series?
I have to stick with it. Naruto, man. Naruto Uzumaki. I know Minato is his father. I forgot his mama name, but he was a big part of the so later on in the season. Naruto stands out though to me.
What is it about? Go ahead.
What is it about Naruto?
Yeah, what is it about those characters that really appeal to you?
So Naruto is a guy who everyone despises Naruto because of what's inside of him, So if you think about that, say for instance, I'm a black man, everyone would despise me because of the color of my skin or because of where I come from or the neighborhood that I come from and the situation that I was forced into that I had no opinion. So just that link is right there that that no one likes him just because of what's inside of him or the situation he was born with. I can relate. Second off, his determination to never stop. never give up, and okay, I like that because I would never stop and never give up. And even when I got what I want, I'm going to help someone to get what they want, and we're going to get some more. So I always want to keep growing in knowledge and character and class and responsibility. Also, so then his certainty of knowing who he is before he ever becomes that, his vision. So Naruto knew he was going to become the Hokage of the Hidden Leaf Village. And it's great because the Hokage is the fiercest, the baddest ninja in the basically everywhere, because the Hidden Leaf is the strongest out of all the kingdoms. I'm totally going into a little detail too.
I love it.
I love it though. But so in my life, it would be going to the NFL. Me at a young age, being growing up in some tough situations and tough living situations, and a really big, huge family. Of course, financial pocket is kind of low, and able to see who I was and who I want to be in the future, and create a plan and work towards that, and get there out of hard work, sheer work, and working. And I know what's at stake, and I'm aware of other people's feelings and surroundings. And that's why I love Naruto, because I see so much of me up in here. He's not a selfish person at all. Even to the most evil character like Sasuke Uchiha. He's like, you're my friend, and Sasuke have completely gone dark and evil, but Naruto still wants to show love. That's what that person I am. Even no matter how wrong you did, and what society say, even if they're wrong at the end of the day, I need to show you some love, because you're a human being and you are alive, and we make mistakes. And for the love of Christ's sakes too, I do love Jesus Christ a lot, So I want to show that if I can still love you, Jesus can still love you too. But I only can love you with the power of Jesus and stuff too.
Man, really well done. Danny, you have any final questions for our man Rickey?
No, I just want to say, Rickey, man, great job. Wish you luck tomorrow. Go out there and run that 4.540 that you want to run. Here's hoping that come training camp, you're wearing a Chicago Bears helmet, man, in the jersey.
Thank you.
Yes, Rickey, we are really, really happy that you made time for us, particularly on the eve of your pro day. We're going to be, wherever you play in the NFL, we're going to be watching your career. Really love how you've expressed your love of the game, how you've come to this point in your career and your ambitions for the future. When you talk about wanting to help out in third world countries and your love of Jesus Christ, clearly you have your priorities in order. I hope and wish all of the great success that you want for yourself personally and for those around you. And we'll be in touch with you, man. We want to see you in an NFL uniform. Hopefully it's with the Chicago Bears. And God bless you, brother.
All right, God bless you as well.
Take care now.
Take care, Rickey.
Take care.
What a great guy.
It's awesome.
Man, oh, man. Guy's got it together. It's like...
Yeah.
When I was that age, all I was thinking about was, two things. One of them was not legal, and still isn't, by the way. And the other thing, always got me in trouble.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's very. This gives you that kind of that. This is why teams at the combine and at these pro days or at these these private meetings, they sit these athletes down. They get to speak to these guys and see what they're all about. See their beliefs and what their drive and so on and so forth. So that's very very good to sit there and kind of look at this prospect here and see like football. Yeah, it's great. He's got the drive he wants. He wants to be great at it, but he's got something beyond football that he can always fall back on. So that's always good to see with these young athletes.
Danny, let me tell you something. You and I have had the privilege now of talking to a bunch of draft prospects. We talked to guys that really impressed the heck out of me down at the Senior Bowl. Terry McLaurin, now who could end up being a late first-round draft pick, definitely in the second round.
Exactly.
Who else did we talk to that we really liked a lot? You weren't there at the time, but I talked to the kid from Western Illinois. I always mispronounce his first name. Saunders, the nose tackle. Saunders. That guy just impressed the socks out of me. And I could just go on with names. These guys, there's so many.
Dalton Reisner, tackle out of Kansas State. He was really impressive as well.
Yes. I mean, you talk about a guy who plays with a Terminator-type attitude, but is off the field, he's the friendliest guy and just really knows his stuff and has a plan for his professional career that's very impressive. Man, it's just fun doing this for a living and talking to these players and getting to meet guys like Rickey, Neal, and like the names that I just mentioned from the Senior Bowl. These guys are really special young athletes.
Exactly, and we were saying prior to the Neal interview here, it's like these are why the NFL teams just value bringing these guys in, going to these pro days, having these meetings, these one-on-ones with them, because really during the season when the scouts are scouting these guys, they're not really allowed to have any sort of interaction with these players, so they really don't talk to them or get to know them. They just kind of go talk to people who are around them, from teachers and to faculty members and so on and so forth. But when you sit down and you got them face to face and you ask them these couple questions, how they respond and how they come back with, do you feel like they're telling the truth? Are they lying to you? Stuff like that. That is what is really important, and is a part of this process that's really important, and that teams really, really value, is just sitting down and talking to these guys, just straight up, man to man, and see what's going on, what makes them tick.
And Danny, I got a theory I want to bounce off you. Every team needs a nucleus of players that are super athletes, that are just great football players from A to Z, from page 1 of the book to the last page of the book. You just got to have a bunch of players like that on the team. But then you can surround those guys with guys who aren't necessarily the best athletes, but are guys like Rickey, Neal, guys that are smart, guys who are competitors, who have the will to win. I think about a guy like Julian Edelman. Who would have thought that Julian Edelman would have been a Super Bowl MVP? Former quarterback, right. They're just certain guys that you want to complement your core players with, guys who are going to be great locker room presence, guys who are going to feed off the athleticism and the superstardom of your core players. Do you buy that, or would you rather say, you know what, I'm going to bypass a guy with a great attitude who's got this great mojo, and I'm going to go for the best athlete in the draft or free agency?
No, well, first of all, talent wins, right? Mm-hmm. So you need talented players, like you mentioned, right. But also you need chemistry. You need character in that locker room. You need guys that hold other players accountable. So, sometimes the leaders of football teams are not the best athletes. They're not the best players. They're just the best leaders, And that's why we were talking about Phelan from Florida. The issues about his character and maturity. I feel like if he's available and the Bears take a chance on him in that third round, you put him in this locker room with guys like Akeem Hicks, Khalil Mack, Danny Trevathan, you keep naming them. And with this coaching staff and everybody else around them, I think players like that, great athletes like that, put into an atmosphere and a surrounding, in a locker room like the Bears have, I think would flourish. So that's why it's like, do you take a chance at a kid who may have, as long as there's nothing, criminally, that's going on in the background that we don't know of, right. There is no medical issues or anything like that. Obviously, you don't want, guys have had issues, in college, with the police or, other stuff, but if it's just a bad attitude, if he's considered lazy or not a hard worker, you put him, like you said, in this locker room, with this Bears locker room, with these players, and they'll make sure they'll get him straight. And then now you have not only a talented player, but now a guy who's matured, who's gotten better. A perfect example of this is Aaron Lynch. Aaron Lynch coming out of, remember, he was kicked out of Notre Dame, and then he went to, I believe it was Central Florida, if I'm not mistaken, yes. Or South Florida. And he was immature coming out of college, mm-hmm. and then got with the 49ers, with Vic Fangio, and then he kind of bounced around a little bit. And then last year, again, he was with a core group that's strong, with strong leadership, strong core, a culture that is motivating, a culture that is, nourishing, and he had one of his better seasons since he was with the 49ers. So, guys like that can develop, can flourish. Again, if the guy has any sort of, record, police record, and anything like that, you might want to, stay away. But if he's a guy we're talking about Polite here, who's considered lazy or selfish or whatnot, those guys can mature and can get better, and plus on top of that, talent. So yes, I mean these are the guys. It depends on the culture you have, and that's the one thing that Matt Nagy did last year. He's brought this terrific culture and a group that offense, defense, they're not separated that way. They're one team, and each guy roots for the other.
I'll give you a name of a player that we talked to who had some issues in college, but you and I talked to him, and after we talked to him, you and I were in agreement that this guy is going to.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Okay, go ahead.
Dexter Williams.
You got it. You're absolutely right. I mean, this guy strikes me as a player who all of those issues are in the past, and coming to the Chicago Bears, if the Bears were to draft him or maybe even pick him up as an undrafted free agent, there's a slight possibility of that, I suspect, that this guy would flourish under Matt Nagy and with Mitchell Trubisky as his leader and the rest of that clubhouse. I
agree wholeheartedly. I mean, this is a guy, I've been talking to you about him since before we even got down to Mobile.
Right.
He's a guy, talent-wise, he fits what I think Matt Nagy wants. He's got the home run hitting speed. He's got the quickness. He's got the ability, the big play ability. Yeah, there's some questions in terms of his ability to catch the ball in the backfield, but in terms of as a pure running back, this guy has the skill set that you want. Now, he's got some off-the-field stuff, some suspensions that I'm sure the Bears have done their due diligence to find out what was going on. But yes, if they feel like those things are in the past and that they could trust him, he's a guy that I think he can, like you said. Now, I don't think he goes undrafted. I would be floored if he goes undrafted, but he's a guy you can get probably in the 4th, maybe 5th round, definitely on day 3, where you can come in, bring him in here, and he can have an impact with you or for your team, playing part of that committee with, Mike Davis and Tariq Cohen.
Okay, I have some good news for you, Danny. I know that when the Bears made the trade for Khalil Mack, I know you were one of the happiest guys in the barroom, maybe the happiest. But I also know that you were upset that we were losing all this draft capital in exchange for this dominating pass rusher. Now,
losing picks hurts me. It
know.
It tugs on my heart.
As a scout, I know how you feel about that, and I'm with you too. I want as many draft picks as possible. I wish that I could live through a day where the Bears have like 3, 4, 5 first-round draft picks. Oh my gosh, that would be
I think the Patriots have 10 or 12 picks. And I was like, oh my God. I was like 12 picks. That would be so phenomenal because you can do so much with those. I mean, you don't have to draft 12 players. You can take those picks and you can trade up, go get a guy. You can, trade back or, some team's going to want to come up in the round and you can take a pick from them for next year. Patriots are notorious for that. They always, a team's going to want to jump up a round. So they take a pick from, the next year's draft. So that's why they always have these, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 picks every year in the draft, plus the comp picks too.
Well, it's funny that you brought up the Patriots because Ryan Pace was asked about compensatory picks and whether he would be, as he talked about, following that Patriot model of acquiring more compensatory picks because there's probably the chance that they're not going to be able to sign all of their own players like they were not able to sign Bryce Callahan and Adrian Amos. And this is what the general manager said.
Yeah, we've talked about that, and I think you have, first of all, your roster has to be at a really healthy state to even be just considering it, right? There can be a huge advantage. So we kind of knew going into this free agency that was a possibility. Now there's things that need to take place, and they're even talking about tweaking some of the equation's complicated enough. But one of the things I think is those guys have to be on those teams for 10 plus games, for example. So you're never really set on that until the season unfolds. But it's something we're mindful of, and I think a lot of the good clubs, you see the Rams doing it, they've figured out a way to take advantage of that system. And for us, the key is continuing to draft well. And if we can do that, then we'll be in a position for these compensatory picks.
I love the idea that the Bears could get into a stage in their development where they start to acquire these 3rd, 4th, 5th rounders. And we know that Pace has had success drafting in the middle of the draft. That would be a godsend, huh?
I love comp picks. And every year when the list comes out of comp picks that are assigned to teams, the Bears are never on it, and I'm always like, come on, can we get a comp pick? But I understand why, because they're always out there signing these free agents to these big contracts. But this year, and that was one thing I was looking at. I'm like, all right, so we lost 2 starters. I mean, I consider Bryce Callen a starter. So we lost 2 starters to big money deals, and we haven't signed anybody. So I'm trying to get this calculation out, and I've read it so many times, I still can't get it in terms of how they calculate who gets comp picks and what and all that stuff. But they lost 2 starters, probably will lose a couple more players, who knows? But they've signed guys on 1-year, 2-year contracts, nothing big. There's nothing to offset that. So I think they are in. From right, they're in the ballpark to get possibly a 4th, 5th round comp pick. Mm-hmm. The one thing that with these comp picks now that are so valuable, that I think this changed 2 years ago, I want to say, is now you can trade them. Before it was you're given a comp pick and you have to make a pick. Now they become draft capital. Now you can actually trade them to move up, move back, do whatever you want to do. So that's the key with these things, and that's why I would just love to see them continue to get these comp picks. And that's why people say this draft this year is not important because because the Bears only have a 1st or 2nd round pick. Guys, Ryan Pace has done very, very well in the later portions of the draft. If he can do that same thing here, he'll continue to build the depth behind the starters we have now. I think next year we have guys like Danny Trevathan, and there's a couple other players that are free agents. If we lose those, and if Iggy, for example, is the heir apparent to Trevathan at linebacker, that's a guy we can probably get a comp pick for. The more you develop your own, the less you're going to dip into the free agent pool, okay? And more teams are going to come get your players, and now you're getting comp picks. Plus, a key thing to keep in mind, and that's the thing that the Rams are doing, is if a player's cut by his team and you sign him, you don't lose a comp pick. All right? It's only the unrestricted free agent that you get dinged for. Right. So I think the Rams are going out there and seeing guys that were cut, and they're trying. That's why I was hoping that they go out there and get a guy like Justin Houston. That they can get a guy who's a difference maker, a playmaker, a guy who would come in and make a difference on their defense, albeit be part of a rotation, but they wouldn't have to be, it wouldn't ding them in terms of, calculating their comp picks for next year. So, but guys like that, this formula, if they can continue this, developing their own, drafting well, allowing guys, the older guys, once their contract comes up, going away and getting big, big money from other teams, you get those comp picks, and this is how you recoup. This is how you build a sustained winner.
Well, Ryan Pace was asked about contracts at the owners' meeting earlier this week, and we were all actually, I wasn't. when they freed up all this money with the reworking of Khalil Mack's contract and other things that they did, everybody was saying, oh, we're going to go after Justin Houston. But I knew what really was going on, and Ryan Pace explains it here.
A lot of times we're thinking proactively with the future in mind, right? So we know, you guys know, there's extensions on the horizon, and just putting us in a healthy situation to be fluid when things come up. So a lot of those decisions were more of a proactive, future in mind approach when we did that. So.
This team would have been in cap hell if they didn't do that, and then faced with the possibility of being unable to extend contracts to players like Cody Whitehair, to Leonard Floyd. There's one other key player that I'm forgetting that his contract is up in 2019. That is after the 2019 season. That is a must re-sign. And
Robertson Harrison.
Yeah, Robertson Harris signed a 1-year, $645,000 contract for 2019, and then in 2020 he becomes a restricted free agent. So that gives the Bears some leverage, but nonetheless, yes, he's a guy that's going to command more dollars. So he's somebody that the Bears have to pay because this guy's career is on the rise. This team is loaded with players who are in 2019 and 20 and maybe 21. Players have to have their contracts extended, and that's what that money is for. This team truly, I truly believe that this team right now, as constituted, and this is before the draft where we're going to add more players, this team has a Super Bowl roster. It really does. And so what we have to ensure now, General Manager Ryan Pace has to ensure, is that they're going to have a Super Bowl roster in 2020, in 2021. and on. There's no reason why he shouldn't be preparing for the future and watching to make sure that we've got a team that's going to compete for seasons for a Super Bowl. In 2019 is a Super Bowl type season already with the roster that we have. You agree with me on that?
I agree. And you got to build that core. You got to pick guys who are core guys, and you got to lock them in. And I'm just like same way you were thinking when they made that money available, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm like, please tell me this is not for Le'Veon Bell. Please tell me this is not for a big name free agent, because like you said, you got to prepare for the future. We haven't mentioned Mitchell Trubisky. If he is your franchise quarterback in a couple of years, he's going to want that $20 million plus salary. So you're going to have to wiggle your way around this cap situation and make sure you're able to secure your core and just add young talent around it. Another key thing to remember is there is another wave of free agency after June 1st, after the draft. A lot of veterans, once the draft is commenced, the teams start cutting veterans as well. So that's another opportunity where you can go and get those one-year guys. Guys like Clinton Dix, you got a one-year contract on him. If he comes in here, has a good year, and you let him go next year as a free agent, guess what? You're probably going to get a comp pick for him. So, stuff like that, going back to the previous discussion where he was calculating comp picks, this all has to play into your role here. Now, the one thing I wonder did you read Peter King's Monday Morning Quarterback the day after the first wave of free agency? I was wondering. I think I did.
Remind me what he said.
The Earl Thomas signing.
No, I missed that.
Okay, so Peter King was saying that I guess he was chronicling the Earl Thomas, free agent, tour, whatnot, if you will, or experience. So he said that Earl Thomas was ready to sign, or getting ready to sign, a one-year, $12 million contract with a veteran team, a contender, right before the last minute. Then Baltimore came in with the multi-year contract, and he took that. When I read that, and I'm like, is that kind of $12 million a year? They freed up $11 million. Could have been the Bears trying to go after Earl Thomas to bring him in at safety. Of course, I'm just guessing. I was curious, but the fact that they did not do that, would I have liked Earl Thomas on 1 year, $12 million contract? It'd be interesting. But the fact that you just said, we have to conserve this money for our core. We have to develop that core. We have to sign them, and we have to continue to develop around them. Continue to bring up players through the draft, young guys, and then build that depth. Like you're saying right now, you think the Bears have a Super Bowl roster. And I tend to agree with you. My biggest fear in every year going into the NFL season is injuries. Knock on wood, last year they had a pretty good injury. In terms of injury rate, they didn't lose many players, but you got to have that depth. If a player goes down, you got to be able to replace them. Next man up is the motto we hear all the time from NFL coaches. But that next man up has got to be able to play. So that's the thing. It's like you got to build that depth, and you got to be prepared. So that's the key here. Is Ryan Pace? He's got his starters. I believe going into the offseason, 21 of his 22 starters were under contract. So he's got that all built up. Now he's got to build that depth.
We could talk another 3-4 hours. I'm telling you.
Let's do it. I'm pumped.
I want to play a clip for you of Ryan Pace talking about the new Halas Hall. And I got to tell you one thing. I'm going to let out a little secret here. I don't want to get my buddy in trouble, so I'm not going to mention his name. Somebody who works here at Bears Barroom sent me a couple of pictures of the new Halas Hall. That's right. He's got a buddy that's doing some work there. Sent me a couple of pictures, and this place is going to be outstanding. I can't, unfortunately, post the pictures on Twitter because it would be betraying a confidence that the Bears have with their contractor. But I can tell you that I saw these pictures, and my buddy saw these pictures that sent them to me, and we're both super excited about what Halas Hall is going to look like when the reconstruction is done. And Ryan Pace was asked about that this week. This is what he said.
So it's amazing. I can't wait for you guys to see it. When you walk in there, it's a game changer. Just when you see the whole thing, it takes your breath away. But when you look at it from a team perspective, the facility was built with what makes our team better. Not just all the flash and stuff. I mean, it's really nice, but what makes our team better? So when you think about the training room and the weight room and the hydro works and the locker room and all the recovery room, the players, it's going to maximize our players, and I think it's going to be a situation where they don't want to leave, but the draft room is state of the art. There's a lot of things coming online that are really impressive. It makes you a little nervous because we'll go into this draft room and there's a lot of technology in there with digital boards, and here we are a month and here's the draft, so hopefully there's no power outage. But
Danny, are you as excited as I am about this new facility this team is putting together?
Exactly, and a big thing about this is going to be a recruiting pitch to future, free agents if they want to bring guys in. A lot of times, players, believe it or not, they look at this stuff. Heck, they spend more time at these facilities than they do at their own homes. Whether they're out there in the morning for treatment, then they go for practice, and they get more treatment after practice, and they eat lunch and dinner and all that stuff. So a lot of times these players, they spend more time at these facilities than they do in their actual homes. So this is a very important thing the Bears are doing here, developing this training center that and where they can now show these players, hey, look, we've committed to top of the line technology, top of the line. They have chefs, they have anything you want. I was talking to a scout down at the Indy, and this is a little bit off the topic here, but he says, when you go to Alabama, what do you think Alabama gets all the players? Their campus is like a mini city. They have everything from restaurants to barbershops to they have lounges with all the games, all the new Maddens and whatever the games are, the latest, hottest games. They have them all there for these guys. So these guys don't even have to leave the campus at all. So the Bears are kind of bringing that same mentality, I feel like, here, at Halas Hall, where they have everything here, where these players can just basically spend most of their days, staying here and under their roof, and basically, not staying out of trouble per se, but just basically have an eye on them and make sure that they're well nutritioned, well rested. If they need anything, they have guys that they can call and they can go make runs for them and so on and so forth. So yeah, this is a key development here. Let's not take it lightly. This is something that the Bears organization has decided to invest heavily. And I think this is something that this is one of the visions that Ryan Pace had when he met with McCaskey and Ted Phillips when he first interviewed for the job. This is what he envisioned developing with the Bears, and I think now his vision is coming to fruition here.
We cannot stress this enough, because the Bears in years past, decades ago, they were very tight with their money. It was the old saying, and it branded the Bears for decades, that George Halas, Mike Ditka coined the phrase, for pun intended, that George Halas threw around nickels like they were sewer cap covers. And that it isn't true anymore. Evidence of that is what they have done with player contracts, with trading for Khalil Mack, with this Halas Hall expansion. And I love it when Ryan Pace said in the interview here that they were looking at doing this remodel with the goal of improving player performance. That is so key. So many times people do improvements, whether it's in the home office building, at the corporation that you work, or at home, or wherever, and they do it for aesthetic reasons, for it to look nice, but they don't think about, how is this going to help us, do the laundry better, or how is this going to help us do our work faster at our corporate office? Well, and how is this going to help our players become better? And that's what the lens that the Bears looked through when they made these improvements, and that is something for all of us to applaud the Chicago Bears and give them an attaboy on Twitter, on social media. If you run into George McCaskey at Soldier Field or wherever, shake his hand and say thank you, because that's something that's behind the scenes. It's going to get some press, but it's something that we as fans should acknowledge and tell them that we appreciate the investment.
Exactly. It's one less thing. They're trying to make it to where their players don't have to worry about anything other than just preparing their bodies, healing up and getting ready to play a game on Sunday, or Thursday or Monday night. But that's what they're doing here. They're just trying to make it where the players have the top of the line training staff, the top of the line nutritionists, the top of the line, everything. So that way, like you said, they're just, concentrating solely on getting their bodies ready to play on Sunday. And this is something that goes a long way in helping when, us fans, we don't see it every day, if it's not, in front of us, we, tend to forget about it. But this is part of building a winning organization. And I think this is a huge, huge development for the Bears.
It really is. All right, Danny, I know you can talk all night football, and I can talk all night football, but we have to put a plug on this first episode of Draft on Tap. And again, Shane Marsaw, he actually just sent me a text with an update on his family emergency. I can tell you, and I don't think he'll mind, is that things are going well, and he'll be back on the saddle very soon. So that's good news.
That's good news
for our brother Shane Marsaw. Danny, give me your final thoughts, and then we'll close out episode number 1 of Draft on Tap.
Like Eric said, there's going to be players that are going to be available to the Bears in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round that are going to have a chance to not only make this roster but also contribute the first season. We also didn't discuss the undrafted free agents. There were 144 underclassmen declaring for this draft. Okay, that goes just underclassmen. And on top of that, the seniors. So there's going to be a ton of undrafted free agents, guys that are going to make NFL rosters, and some guys that are going to make impact. So, just because you only have 5 picks for now, okay, it doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to pull up guys, after the draft and sign them. And I think that the Bears are going to be very active. So that's why I'm digging in all these positions. I'm going from the edge players. I'm going from the tight ends, the running backs, the safeties, the cornerbacks. Even defensive line, because I think that could be a sneaky position there that the Bears could look to fill. We didn't even talk about, Pace talking about moving Ward Robert Harrison maybe to outside linebacker to maybe help them in that, fill some of that depth there if they lose an Aaron Lynch or if they can't get somebody, in the draft. So, if you're going to do that, you're going to have to replace them on the line there. So defensive line could be a position that they could be looking at to draft as well. So, just because they don't have a 1st, 2nd round pick doesn't mean that they're not going to be getting talented players. So I continue to break these guys down. And if you guys, is there any player you guys want me to scout and tweet out about, get some film on, just, hit me up on Twitter, DShimon56, DSHIMON56, and then I can do my best to get a tape on them and break them down. I'm real excited. Like I said, we're less than a month away. And this is going to be, I feel, this has a chance to be another very good draft for the Bears.
Yep, and again, we have 10 planned episodes of Draft on Tap, but it could be more. If you guys clamor for more information, and all of the segment producers are doing such a great job of lining up guests that we just may have to add more shows just to get all our interviews in that people are agreeing to, and we've got some really, really impressive talent lined up for you in the coming weeks. And
some of the players we got coming up, these guys are going to be, I don't want to give it away, but these guys are going to be possibly day 1, day 2 picks here. So just so you guys know, we got some players coming on that we're going to talk to as well.
Yes, sir. All right, Danny. I am going to close the show by, first of all, thanking all of our segment producers. And again, it's Bearlissimo. He did a great job on the interview and booking guests for us. Joe Mandel, Bobby Bombs, Ryan Badgley, all of them doing a great job on Draft on Tap. Shane Marsaw, you'll hear his voice next week. And Danny, you are the man. It's always a pleasure teaming up with you on these shows. Why don't you say goodbye to your loyal listeners? Listen, Danny, your Twitter numbers, I took a look at them. They're like gaining faster than Apple stock. You're moving up the boards there, brother.
I need more. Come on, guys. I need more. I need more followers. Let's go.
All right. Remember, if you drink, please do not drive. And always bear down.